And, with Drybar launching in 2010, I was really at the forefront of like the kind of rush of female entrepreneurs, which I'm humbled and grateful for. But, so I was like, there's no rule book here. Like no one's really done this before. And I was, being touted in amazing ways, cover of magazines, I was speaking at things, I had all these great things happening. But behind the scenes, my life was really falling apart. And I just felt like it felt so inauthentic to me to like post something on Instagram that was just one-sided of like all the success and great things. I mean, that was true, just like thrown into this world that was amazing, but like new and scary and awesome and crazy. And it was like, it was a lot of, and I didn't have any of those tools back then. Back then I was like,
how did you cope back then?
I don't know. It wasn't good.
You didn't sleep.
I did. Well, I just didn't I've talked about this a lot. Like I didn't have any kind of like practice, And it was like working myself to death. And that's something that I talk about a lot in my book, The Messy Truth. It's like I wasn't taking time for myself. I slowly but surely as we were growing the brand, like realized like, oh, I don't have to be in the office at 9:00. I can go work out in the morning if that feels good. And just how I set up my schedule and all those things, like it took me a long time to give myself permission to take better care of myself, which is so up,
I know. Welcome back to the Save Yourself podcast. Today I have a very special guest. She's Alli Webb, the founder of Drybar, New York Times bestselling and USA Today bestselling author. In 2010, Drybar exploded into a nationally recognized and highly sought-after brand, growing to over 150 locations and a highly successful product line, which sold for $255 million in 2020. We're going to talk about that. Webb has been a guest on the Shark Tank show and the cover of Inc. magazine's How I Did This issue, named 100 Most Creative People in Business by Fast Company, and featured on the Fortune magazine's 40 Under 40 list, Mary Claire's Most Fascinating Women list, and recently Inc. magazine recognized her as one of the 100 women building America's most innovative and ambitious businesses. Webb also recently released her second book, The Messy Truth, which is a USA Today bestseller. And we are talking about her new line that she has just launched called the Messy Collective this year. It's a robust online community for female founders. And we also have something new coming out from the Messy line. And she proudly serves as a mentor and advisor for several companies, including Globar, the Bardot, and Bumo, and resides in Los Angeles, California with her 2 sons. Welcome, Alli.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you.
I'm so excited to be here.
Okay, we're going to start with a controversial, maybe a little bit.
I have a lot of those.
Okay. What would you say was your biggest kind of failure so far, whether it's business and life?
I don't know that I think of anything as a failure, really. I think I've had a lot of, things that would be probably viewed as failures by others, mainly being, getting married and divorced so many times, as I like to joke around that I'm collecting husbands now. I've been divorced twice, which was not ideal. But failures, no. I think I learned so much, and I think that like we're all here, like sifting through our karma and figuring out what we need to learn. And, there's a lot to learn, and I had a lot to learn through both of my divorces, and taught me a lot about myself, my kids, being a better mom. So, I really don't. It's funny. That question kind of caught me off guard because I don't really think about the perceived mistakes as failures. I know it sounds so cliche, but it's like they're all, lessons. They're
I love
not
it.
Mistakes. Yeah.
And I love, why are you so open on your platform and social media?
That's a good question.
Because I think it's really refreshing to see someone who's like, hey, here's my body struggles, here's my life struggles, here's my mindset struggles, business struggles, whatever it is. Why did you decide that route?
Well, it was kind of interesting. I think it probably started years ago when my first husband and I got divorced because we were partners in Drybar, and he was the creative branding genius behind Drybar, and my brother was also my business partner, and he was the business side, and I was like the hair, and it worked really well. But when we were getting divorced or separated, first and foremost, we had like 5,000 or 6,000 employees, and people in the company, knew us as this like mom and dad, like we were, this couple, and there was like rumblings of us breaking up, and I think it made everybody nervous in the company because it was like, what's going to happen, right? It's like, the two of the three leaders are getting divorced, and so I decided the best way to kind of deal with that in one fell swoop was to like, let's just put it on Instagram because everybody sees that, the stylist, the teams, all that. So anyway, I posted. Our divorce was rough in the beginning. We're great friends now. It's good now, but it was rough in the beginning, like most divorces are. But we had like made a bit of an amends, and it was probably, I don't know, a few months after we separated. We took a family vacation to Jamaica, which looked a lot different, obviously. Mm-hmm. And, we took a picture. We were out on the water. It was just like, we were like friends, and we were always best friends. And that was part of the ride. The marriage didn't totally work, but that's probably another podcast. Yeah. And I posted it and saying, hey, we're not together anymore, but, we're still in this with Drybar. We're, and with our kids and blah, blah, blah. And it was the first post that I'd ever posted on Instagram. And this was like several years ago. I mean, gosh, 7-8 years ago. And it was the first thing that I ever posted that was like that vulnerable and private, but it was like, it was serving a purpose. But the response to it was overwhelming. And I think it gave me a little bit of confidence to like want to be a little more real about what was happening, because it seemed to help and serve so many people, Yeah. And then, after that, and then as I was trying to like pick up the pieces of my life, which were quite broken, I was like, and I was still at the helm of this company, and with Drybar launching in 2010, I was really at the forefront of like the kind of rush of female entrepreneurs, which I'm humbled and grateful for. But, so I was like, there's no rule book here. Like no one's really done this before. And I was, being touted in amazing ways, cover of magazines, like speaking at things, I had all these great things happening. And I was talking primarily about the business, but behind the scenes, my life was really falling apart. And I just felt like it felt so inauthentic to me to like post something on Instagram that was just one-sided of like all the success and great things. I mean, that was true, but so was all the shit that was happening in the background. And I think I felt really compelled to be like, hey guys, like my life is great in a lot of ways, and I've had a lot of success, but like it's also really fucking hard right now, And again, the relatability to that, and kind of this like, oh, she looks like she has it all and has it together, but not really. And so I think it just humanized me, and I have felt ever since very called to continue with that, because I think it's important to be, I think that transparency is so important, for everybody. It's like, I just hate when people aren't transparent. Like, and I don't even care. I have no judgment. Do what you want to do, live the way you want to live. Seriously, no judgment, but just be truthful about it. And it's funny because it even goes back to like, I remember when we were starting Drybar, and Yelp, ooh, the bane of my existence,
Yes,
right? And listen, like I always want feedback. Yeah, I really do. Yeah. And you can tell me really bad feedback, but tell me, from you. Yeah. And the thing that always drove me crazy about Yelp, which I always tried to get them to change and they wouldn't, was like, don't let people be anonymous. Yeah, because people are fucking mean when they're anonymous. Yeah. Like if they're not anonymous, they won't be as mean, for starters. And second of all, then I can call them
and find out what happened.
And say what happened. And so that's kind of how I feel, like that same kind of vein of like, let's just be transparent and honest about things. And, I know not everybody agrees with that perspective. And a lot of people like want to keep stuff private, and I keep stuff private too.
Yeah.
But I just feel really compelled. It just feels like my calling.
But you share, I think what you're saying is when we're looking at these people on social media, I think you can see through that.
Yeah.
I can always feel their almost like their intention, their
performance.
energy, their authenticity.
Yeah.
Even though it's like a flat,
Yeah.
you can still feel it. Like
Yeah.
obviously in person, it's a much like it's like exaggerated 1,000 times. Like I can feel your energy, and it's great. And different than it would be on Instagram, but
Right.
that authenticity really does speak through.
Yeah.
And I always think that, and I always tell my team that, like, I feel like I have to be the person who's posting. I have to be the person who's talking about it, because otherwise, what's the point? Like, if you're
Yeah.
just following someone's team, like,
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
like that's not really
Yeah.
interesting to anybody.
And I think one of the best compliments I ever get is when people are like, "Oh, you're just like you are on social." You're just being like, yeah, like
That's so good.
But I think that not every, there is that like disconnect sometimes, and I see it in people that I follow, that it just everything is always perfect.
Yeah.
And you're like, you always look perfect, you always
Yeah.
sound perfect, everything. And I'm like, it's like, for some stuff, okay, but like it's just, to me, it's like not that interesting. So for me, I just don't want to be that, and that's
Yeah, and it's almost like instead of having a chip on your shoulder about something, actually talking about it really helps. Also, you realize there's so many people struggling with the same exact
Yeah.
thing. Like when you said, things on the outside look so good and then you're falling apart inside, like that really resonated with me, because I feel the same way. I did these like 20 years of training in medicine and, followed this path. And at the end of it, I got this amazing job and I was like thriving
Yeah.
from the outside, but I literally hated who I was seeing in the mirror. Like it's so relatable, because so many of us are in that situation, and
Yeah.
it's so easy to be like, oh, everything's fine, everything's okay. And one of the funniest things happened to me. I moved from New York to Scottsdale, and I was going through this rough time where I had 2 toddlers and I had this new job, and I didn't feel in control of my body, and I didn't feel like I couldn't sleep, and I didn't love what I was doing on a daily basis. And I remember confiding in someone, and the worst thing happened. She looked at me and she was like, "Oh, that's too bad." And she's like, "Cause my kid's perfect, and my life is perfect, and my job is perfect." And I was like shut down, because the last thing you want in that situation is for someone to like be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that sucks.
Yeah.
Because my life is perfect." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, is no one else going through this?" So
yeah. I was like, that's probably not true.
yeah,
either.
I know,
Yeah.
but it's tough, because I
Yeah.
think a lot of people do have that front, and you can tell something
Yeah.
on social or not.
Well, I think there's also like, this, a lot of people aren't even in touch with, like, you came to the realization like this, I can't sleep.
Yeah.
I'm not happy.
Yeah.
And I need to do something about it. I think a lot of people stay in that like autopilot mode of like, they don't connect the dots of like why they're not sleeping or why their health isn't great, because they're like this, they feel like this is all they can do. There's no changing it. And there always is that opportunity.
Have you struggled with your health or body image at all through all these years? I know you share little snippets here and there,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting when everything first started with Drybar and I was like on camera a lot. I used to like really pick myself apart after,
but like how you looked or something.
how I looked, how I sounded. And I did some media training, and then just experience, and then I was on QVC for a while, so I got really comfortable on live TV, and now I'm very
I'll
comfortable.
have to talk to you about QVC, by the way.
Yeah.
Later.
Okay. So that it was interesting, because after my first divorce, and when I was really in it and really struggling emotionally, I ended up losing so much weight just because I'm one of those people, like when I'm sad, I don't eat. And so I got really thin, and I liked my body better that way, but I was really unhappy. So I was like, well, this doesn't connect. This doesn't totally feel right. And as I started to feel better, I gained weight again. Not a lot of weight. I just more weight than I wanted, and I'm sensitive to how I talk about this because I feel like back to like no judgment, whatever you like about your body and what you look like, cool. I like myself at a certain weight, and it's always been kind of a struggle for me to get there. And then I see myself on camera, and I'm like, or on camera or whatever I'm doing, and I'm constantly looking at myself through things that I'm posting or whatever I'm doing. And so, yeah, I feel like I have a little bit extra scrutiny, maybe. I don't know. I only know my life,
But I think I think for women in general,
Yeah, we screw
whether
ourselves.
you're on camera and TV, I mean, that exaggerates it.
It does.
But I think we're judged
We all have
just
that,
so
yeah.
much on just how it's not just, how's your business? It's not like, how are you as a friend? It's also like, how do you look and how do you dress? And
But it's really interesting because I find that whatever feels like right to you is like what you should do and what you should strive for, right? And for me, it was like I feel like I'm in really good control of it now, and I'm probably happier with my body than I've ever been, and
that's awesome.
and yeah, I mean
How do you stay in shape?
that's taken me years to get to. I mean, it's a handful of things, I mean, it's
Pilates, weights, what's your thing?
yeah, I do Pilates by Amanda, who's pretty well known in this town.
Okay.
She's amazing, and I work out with a personal trainer a couple of times a week, and you talk. I see you talking about it all the time,
Yeah.
like a lot of protein.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of cardio. Like I don't see the value in it. I walk a lot. I walk my dog a lot, but I know that like weights is really like the most important thing. And now I'm about to be 50, so I'm dealing with like some hormonal stuff and and dabbling a little in peptides and things like that. So, I've got it kind of dialed in right now, which feels
Love it.
really
Is it,
good.
What, Sermorelin?
Yeah, I am taking that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the most popular for
protein.
women
Yeah.
in that age group, in our age group. Yeah, peptides have become, I think it's going to really explode over the next year or two
Yeah, I
now
think
that the
so, too.
regulation's going to be different around it.
Yeah.
But I think women in that 40 to 55 age range, it's like you have to change it up a little bit, but once you do dial it in, it's a little bit easier. I mean, it's not like, oh, all your symptoms are gone or things don't like hurt or whatever change. But I think once you get into like a good rhythm of that really does help.
Totally.
What do you do when you feel in business or in life when you feel really overwhelmed, confused, or stressed? Is there like a strategy that you use?
I think it's I'm kind of somebody who thrives in chaos, luckily, which I think you kind of have to be an entrepreneur because, as you know, it's like there's just constantly. It's like the best description of that I've ever used is like whack-a-mole, like life and business and kids. Everything in life is like whack-a-mole. It's like you put one fire out, you put one, get one situation under control, and like 5 others pop up. And so for me. I think it's also like the surrender of that. When you say how do you deal with it, I mean it's a practice, right? And for me, it's like it doesn't always feel good. Like I know bad days are coming, and I know good days are coming, and it's like how do you roll with both? Is kind of the conversation I'm always in with myself. Is like, oh, this is a bad one, and this one sucks. But knowing that everything that it will change, I think that's like one of my kind of internal mantras. Is like. Things are shitty right now, but they're going to change. Things are great right now, but they're going to change, And I think it's like I've read just so many books, and I've really like, entrenched myself with so much knowledge about all this, and I've so much. I think because of the things that I've been through and having to go inward and learn so much about life, and that I've worked really hard to get to this place of like self-mastery of myself, of like and self-awareness. Like self-mastery and self-awareness are like my favorite two things because I really pride myself on both of those. It's like I used to have a really bad not temper, but, I'm kind of emotionally volatile with my kids. It's like they didn't know what version of me I was going to get because I wasn't very good at controlling my emotions, like very reactionary. It's like I'm really aware of all that now. So I feel it when it still happens, but I feel it when it comes up, and I'm able to, like, most of the time, not always, most of the time, be able to be like, okay, there's that thing, there's that wound, there's that trigger, whatever it is, and I'm able to, like, So I think it's like, to your question, how do you deal with it? I mean, it's being aware of it, and being able to surrender to the fact that, like, yeah, this kind of sucks right now.
Yeah. And do you, like, meditate through that?
I do. I meditate, but I also I do meditate sometimes. But I have, like, a pretty, like, I wake up, I write in a gratitude journal.
Okay.
Most days, if my life's not too crazy, I feel like the last 2 weeks with being in LA.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I know this is going to air later, but when it does, the fires had just happened. So, like, the last 2 weeks, like, we're so scrambly. I feel like my brain is still catching up, and so I'm, like, not walking my dog as much because it's like we're not sure if it's safe to be outside.
Yeah.
So, but historically, I will get up, walk my dog, go get a cup of coffee, either listen to, music is very healing to me. I really love listening to music. And I listen to books, a lot of books. I don't read physically anything. I listen to everything. So I'm kind of always trying to pour into myself those things. And sometimes just music feels very healing to me. I actually listen to, like, piano a lot too, because it's very relaxing. But I think the gratitude practice is probably the biggest key, because there's some, I'm going to probably butcher this, but there's some study that's like, if you're in gratitude, like, you can't be upset or something like that.
Yeah.
And
it shifts your brain.
Yeah. And I'm so into, like, Joe Dispenza and all the brain stuff that if I'm going through a particularly hard time, I, will make sure, like, I brush my teeth with my left hand since I'm right-handed, or, like, trying to, like, I like to try to hack the
rewire.
neuroplasticity. Like, I geek out on all that stuff.
Yeah, I love that stuff too.
So
and,
it's
like,
a lot of things.
That's like, that you kind of rewire that gut brain connection by, like, shifting your thoughts, and then that shifts, like, kind of that inner gut feeling that you have. And
totally.
It's like, it's all kind of like that mind body connection. I think it's hard for people who don't understand, who've never tried it, to even know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, including my old self, it was like you're in this frozen state of cortisol all the time.
Yeah, it sucks. I've been there for sure.
Yeah, and I've been there. And it's like you can't think straight. You can't calm your mind.
And that's the other thing. I think when you that's where, like, the self-awareness comes in, because it's recognizing, which I wish more people did. Like, you recognize when you're triggered and you step away from a situation, or you don't send that email, or you say, I need a minute, and walk outside. Like, and because for me, like, it's fire. Like, I can feel that. And that's interesting about the gut connection, because it's like, for me, I'm very tuned into my body.
Yeah.
And I know I can feel it in my body when I'm upset, stressed, have anxiety. And it's like, okay, I mean, it was just like a situation that happened to me yesterday where I felt I had so much anxiety, and I was like, I called my best friend. That's another tool.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm like, I just need to talk through this.
Yeah.
I needed to, and whether you have, like, a friend or a therapist or whatever it is, I was like, I just need to talk through this. And like, I really believe as another tool of, like, and I'm sure you agree, and at this point everybody knows this, but you got to get it out of you.
Yeah.
If it's, like, festering inside you, and so, but if you're not aware of that, and you're just running around irresponsibly, frankly, being like, like, it's so, you can't, it's not good for anybody around you, including you. And so that's, part of, like, practice for me. And it's a practice, it's like, I prefer that word because it's not like it's ever done. You're never done.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
You're always trying to get better.
Yeah,
you must be better now than you were when Drybar first started.
I mean, it's like phases. When Drybar started, I was, just, like, thrown into this world that was amazing, but, like, new and scary and awesome and crazy. And it was like, it was a lot of, and I didn't have any of those tools back then. Back then
How did you cope back then?
I don't know. It wasn't good.
You didn't sleep.
I did. Well, I just didn't, like, I've talked about this a lot. Like, I didn't have any kind of, like, practice, And so I was like working myself to death. And that's something that I talk about a lot in my book, The Messy Truth. It's like I wasn't taking time for myself. I slowly but surely, as we were growing the brand, like realized like, oh, I don't have to be in the office at 9:00. I can go work out in the morning if that feels good. And just how I set up my schedule and all those things, like it took me a long time to give myself permission to take better care of myself, which is so fucked up, but that's what we do, because we are on this like treadmill and we have these expectations and I think that we put on ourselves, that whatever, but I think that we have seen a shift in the last few years of people really acknowledging the importance of taking care of themselves. And even like, I remember when I was going through my second divorce and I was really heartbroken and really sad. And I remember just was like reading. I think that's what I do when I'm really sad. Like I'm like, I gotta like read stuff and I have to like find things that are relatable, which is also part of why I probably talk about my stuff, because I know it helps other people, because that's what I reach for. But I remember reading in a lot of books from like therapists and psychologists and stuff, and they were like, our country doesn't allow heartbreak to have the same grieving process as like a death or something really, and I don't know, maybe people will come at me and disagree with this, but it is a death. Yeah. And it is truly a death. And it took me a long time to even like admit that, feel that, realize that. But we're expected to like go on. And like I had the luxury, and I'm really grateful for this, that I had sold my company. I had the luxury of like taking like some time off, because I was like a puddle of myself, and even once I started to go back to doing things, especially public facing things, I mean, I kid you not. I mean, I would be like, I'd do something like this, and then I would be like, get me out of there so I can go in my car and cry. Aww. Like that was the reality. And at some point you have to do that, right? At some point you're like, I just have to like show up. And I actually think that's therapeutic and healing in a way too, to be like, okay, I'm going to muster up the strength and go do that thing, But that was really me for a while until and then eventually, with time and a lot of other stuff, everything got better.
Do you think that women, and this, I'm sure you've gotten asked this in different ways, but now that we're talking about this, like, do you think women in particular have unique struggles in entrepreneurship that, whether it be, we talked kind of about image and then relationships, like, do you think that's true? Or do you think that it's, everyone's individual?
I mean, I don't really subscribe to, you can't deny the facts. And let me start with that like women, I don't know them off the top of my head, but like my good friend Jacqueline Johnson, who, started Create and Cultivate, and now she has a company called Serum, which I'm an investor in. And it's kind of like a founders and funders, like matchmaking service. It's a really great idea. And she could rattle off some facts about how, with the percentage.
Inequities.
Completely with that, and you can't deny that. I've never put myself in the category of, oh, I can't do this because I'm not a man, or oh, I have this because like I've never felt that way. I've always felt like if you have a good business and getting someone to invest in any business is hard. No matter who you are, how good you are at it, and it's not easy, and there's so many things that have to line up for someone to be willing to give you money. I mean, it's hard. So, I don't know that I subscribe to it's harder if you're a woman per se. However, I think like for some women, but for some men, just depending on, it's like you have to look at it equally.
But why do you think there's less women founders or like less women leaders in companies, for example? Like, I mean, I guess that's the question that I often think about too. Yeah. Like, yes, there's unique struggles for everyone. Everyone has, and being a mom is always a unique struggle, or parent in general. Yeah. But like, I think I've always wondered, like, why are there?
It's a good question.
So
I think that it's changing.
Yes,
for sure. And I think I think we're coming out of, centuries and,
it's like that.
Of men being in charge.
Yeah.
And even when you go back and listen, I'm no history buff, but you don't have to know a lot about history to know that like for, when I was a kid and like when my parents were kids, like there was men leading everything, like there's still men primarily leading the country and in politics. We're just starting to see women come into politics and I mean, and all of that. And so I think that like the stage was set so many years and years, centuries ago for men to be in charge, and I think women like myself, like you, like, so many female founders I know are now like kind of forging this path of like, no, you can be a CEO or founder of your company. I think it's just like anything else. I mean, I think if like, 20, 30, 40, 100 years from now, I don't think we'll feel the inequity the way we do now.
That's
like,
so interesting.
Yeah,
I love that.
Like I think that women are slowly but surely coming into these like powerful leadership roles. I mean, even from when I started Drybar 15 years ago, there was very few women. I remember like looking around being like, who do I talk to?
Yeah.
And there was like Wendy Zomner who had started Urban Decay and we had the same private equity guys. So I talked to her but I mean, Candace Nelson was one of the early ones too, but there was nowhere near
how many there
are now, which is beautiful and amazing. So I think that's probably why, and I think we'll continue to see those numbers rise for women, and also partially like why I do this. It's like I do feel, like we were talking about this transparency of like I can show you. I didn't go to college. I don't have a fancy degree. I'm not usually the smartest person in the room, but I have a lot of drive and ambition, and I'm like, if I can do it, you can do it.
I love that.
I really have that mentality, and so I hope that inspires. I mean, I speak at colleges. I speak to high school. I mean, I'm always so humbled and flattered when a high school girl comes to me and says she's writing a paper on Drybar. Will I do an interview with her? Which of course I do them all the time. And that to me is like really amazing because like those girls at high school and even now I go and speak at so many entrepreneurial programs in college that did not exist when I was going to college. Not that I went, but when I was thinking of when that time was there, when it was an option. So yeah, I think the tide is certainly changing.
So with that being said, tell us about this brand new line project endeavor.
I my second book, The Messy Truth, came out almost 2 years ago now, and it was really the messy truth of growing, building, scaling, selling a company like Drybar, and then all the stuff that happened behind the scenes and like the divorces, my son going to rehab, depression, like my mom had just died. Like it was just it was an amazing but rough 10 years, and I kind of always felt like I'd write a book about Drybar because it was so amazing and we were on this rocket ship and we changed an industry and it was so cool, and I wanted to share, because as somebody who came into this company having no real, I mean, my parents were entrepreneurs, so I knew that world a little, but nowhere near what I was about to face. And I learned so much. Like I felt like my time at Drybar was like, like earning a business degree because I just learned so much about so much. And I felt really, again, compelled to like share that and give as many, like the book is full of life lessons and business lessons that I learned. But it was also the messy stuff too, which I thought was really important to share. Like you can't share one without the other. It's like that felt, that really resonated with me. So, I launched this book, really, resonated with women around the country and around the world, really. I mean, it's always crazy when someone from like another country is reading the book, and there was so much great feedback on it. And I think because, well, have you read the book?
I haven't read the whole book, but I read parts of it for this.
Well, the only reason I say it is because, or ask, is because there's kind of, for someone who's reading the book, I'll leave it because there's the afterwards is pretty harsh, which, I didn't intend for any of that to happen, but, but it really like sent me into so much work and whatever. And, kind of into this like messy persona that has become, like my, I don't know, MO or anthem. I don't know what you would call it. But anyways, fast forward to, kind of feeling like I'm ready kind of for my next thing. And what does that look like? And, my true love has really always been hair, and when I started Drybar in 2010, it was like a very specific thing. It was like, creating the perfect blowout and this perfect hair and this perfect life and all of that went with that. And now at this phase of my life, I've embraced the messier, not so perfect part of myself, of my life, because it's pretty messy. And I think back then I was just striving for some sort of perfection, and now it's different, and it's like a lot of it's like funny how you connect to gut, like I connect to hair, so much, and I'm like, oh, I actually like my hair like this. I like it messier. I like it like I've just really like grown into that. And a lot of it was like kind of started to happen through COVID when I kind of stopped blow drying my hair, stopped coloring it as much, and really started taking care of it, and my hair got healthy. And so I started kind of noodling on this idea of like, how can it's been so much trial and error for me of getting my hair to like be messy and wavy, but still look good. And so I've been on this kind of quest to do that, and really wanted to create products that embrace that. And so, I called up my friends at Sephora and I said, hey, here, this is my idea. Like, I want to create a line of products that are, created for women to help them embrace what they have, like your hair, but better.
Got it.
And so if you aren't getting I love blowouts still, but if you aren't getting a blowout, like, what are you doing in those other days?
Nothing.
Like, how can we help? Right. It's like,
struggling.
And I'm
hiding
not
my hair.
Yeah. I mean, like, and I'm not a bun girl. Like, it gives
I'm
me a
not
headache.
either.
I don't really like wearing my hair. I've never, I know like people love a messy bun, which I kind of like the way it looks too, but I don't really, I like my hair really free.
Yeah.
So I've never really worn that. And I'm like, well, what do you do in between if you're not getting blowouts? And how do you make your hair, like the hair you have, look great? And so that's kind of how the idea for Messy was born, of like creating these products that really help you embrace, your your own natural hair, and like really supportive and, healthier hair, and kind of taking the good hair you have and not messing it up, and, all of that stuff of creating this product line.
So you don't have to get a blowout if you use the messy products?
No.
Oh, wow. This is interesting.
And that's the thing is we're creating a lot of education. And if you were to look at my Instagram right now, there's tons of videos of me kind of doing tutorials of how I do my hair, which is really like a process of rough drying it and then twisting it and letting it dry. And like, depending on like how much curl you have or how much frizz you have, it varies a little, but that's really how I get my hair to look like this, and how,
Really?
Yeah.
That is so exciting.
Yeah.
So what is the disruptive thing about it? Is it that,
Well, I think it's like creating products that, right now, like women who are trying to like embrace their waves or curls, or even just like I have a little bit, in my experience, and it's pretty vast, most women have like a wave to their hair. Their hair's a little frizzy, and they're like, I don't know what to do with it if I don't get a blowout. And so, the thing that we're doing is like showing women how, like, we have like this it's called rough dry cream, where it's like it has like the right perfect amount of hold, but your hair will feel soft and not crunchy, but like we're teaching you how to like twist it into your hair, and you have to use something so your hair has some hold, but not too much hold so it doesn't feel good, so, and all of the products, even the shampoo and conditioner are like foundationally make your hair like bouncy and full, not weighing it down, not too heavy, not too stripping, so everything was with that in mind. And like, we're coming out with a serum that, and all of the other beauty of it is that all of our products have a mantra. So like our serum is like, I am unbreakable.
I love that.
Everything's kind of a play in words, and everything has a mantra. But like with the serum, we put it in this beautiful glass bottle because I wanted to sit by your bed.
Yeah.
Because when people should be putting like serum in their hair before they go to sleep, because that's when your hair, just like your skin, it's like we load up our face with so much stuff before we go to sleep because we get dry in the night. Same thing happens to our hair, but nobody thinks about it like that. So I'm like, put the serum next to your bed and put it in your hair before you go to sleep. So when you sleep, your ends don't dry out and break, which is why hair breaks when it gets dry. So all of the things that we're doing are really like for the health of your hair, like your hair to look and feel great, and to be, easier for you to manage on a day-to-day basis.
I love that. Where are people going to find this
So we're launching in
product?
Sephora in July of this
my
year
gosh,
of
so exciting.
2025.
Where in Sephora? All the Sephoras?
In like 700 doors. I think that's maybe all the Sephora.
So USA?
Yeah, US to start. I think we might be also in, I should know this, in Canada as well. But yeah, I mean, we're rolling out mostly in the US, which is, crazy and exciting. And, I think building the Drybar line was such a labor of love for me. And I learned so much that, now creating a product line and not having, 150 stores and 10,000 employees it feels like really good.
I love that.
Yeah.
This is going to be so cool. I can't wait to try it. Are they out yet?
Well,
I know this is going to be when this airs, it's going to be out. Yeah.
Yes, but I couldn't even bring you samples because right now all the samples we have are reserved for press and all.
I want to try it because not getting a blowout. I have a 14-year-old who's like makes incessant fun of me because if we go on vacation, my hair is just like.
Is your hair curly naturally?
It's wavy. See? It's like that in between that you were saying. Like I feel like I can't leave it air dry because it's like that in between.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, air drying is hard because you're basically just like you're saying like, oh, just do whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that. This is more of like you still need to style your hair. You're just not blow drying your hair.
Yes, got it.
Helping teach you how to like set your hair up for success.
I love that.
As opposed to, and it's like, still like your hair looks beautiful right now as in a blowout. And I still love a blowout too, but this is just kind of giving you another option.
I need another option. So I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, where can people find more about you? I know we have so many other topics to get to, but this is like the big thing that you're working on right now. So I want to make sure that we talk
the Messy
about it.
Collective.
Yes.
So the Messy Collective I started that before the product line. It was kind of another offshoot of the messy universe that I'm living in. I get a lot of women who come to me through like my Instagram or LinkedIn or, end up getting my email and email me and they're like, hey, can you meet me like for coffee? Because I have a business idea I want to pitch to you, which I don't really have the bandwidth for that, but I want to help and I want to, do what I can. And so the idea came to me to do like a membership situation where I can like address a couple of people's problems or issues or concerns in a bigger setting. So I started this thing called the Messy Collective, and it's housed on this platform called School, which is like a big membership platform. And it's 2 calls a month. One's like with me where like women are asking me, all questions about their business, what they're struggling with. And it's great because, I don't know, there's about 100 women in it now. And hopefully by the time this airs, there'll be a lot more. But, we all like get knowledge from each other, right? So when somebody asks a question about like, hey, what do you recommend for scaling my company, or when's the right time to raise money, or whatever the question may be, it serves a lot of other people as well, either in that moment or in 3 months when they can go back to it. All the calls are recorded so that you can go back and watch any call. So it's an hour with me once a month, and then I bring in like a founder friend of mine. Like I had Ellen Bennett from Headley and Bennett and Candace Nelson, Jacqueline Johnson. I'm blanking. There's been, so basically I just ask my friends who are founders if they'll come on and just give an hour of their time and talk to these women and tell them their story and their perspective. So, and then they have each other, so now they have this built-in like community of entrepreneurs who, all have each other's backs. It's beautiful. Like they all help each other. Like when we're on a call and someone's like, talking about something, sometimes I'm like, I don't actually know. Yeah. And then, but somebody in the group will be like, oh, I know, and blah, 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 so it's just,
that's so cool.
It's really cool. And I'm really proud of it. And it's I'm really transparent with them. I like they knew when the product line was coming out way before anybody else, and like I try to like
that's cool. That's nice access.
Yeah, that's really what it is. It's access. It's definitely a lot of access to me, and then being able to access these, founders they wouldn't otherwise be able to connect with. So
yeah,
it's been really it's been really good for me, to be able to give back in that way. So.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah. First of all, this is Alli, 5.0? Yeah.
That's funny.
We don't call it 50, we call it 5.0, right?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
And this is huge. You have the collective, you have Messy, you have a lot of other things going on.
Yeah.
And where can people find you so they can learn kind of more behind the scenes, the vulnerable pieces?
Yeah, well, on Instagram, I'm just Alli Webb. And then the messy website is itsmessy.com.
Oh, it's messy.
It's messy.
I love
And then
that.
that's the same Instagram. It's messy. So there'll be a lot happening with that. And
Good luck. I feel the good vibes. It's going to be
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you. I'm excited.
And can't wait to talk to you post and see how that went.
Yeah, me too.
Exciting. Okay, thanks, guys. Thank you, Alli, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for next week. Thank you, and have a great day.